have posted this clip which was taken inside the deck keel just to bring you an idea of how an enclosed space would be. By looking at this video, you can easily picture how hazardous an enclosed space could be. It's a very confined space to work. Here I went inside the deck keel for working on the ballast tank hydraulic valve. Okay, now let's go to the video. An enclosed space means a space that has limited openings for entry and exit, and space with inadequate ventilation, and spaces those are not designed for continuous worker occupancy. What you see here are few examples of enclosed spaces. Because of the toxic atmosphere, some spaces such as paint and chemical lockers, CO2 rooms, and battery lockers are considered dangerous. And places connected to the enclosed spaces are also considered dangerous because gas and liquid migration can occur through small gaps and cracks from connected unsafe spaces. And as per SOLAS, crew members are required to participate in enclosed space entry and rescue drill on board the ship at least once every 2 months. And according to the IMO guidelines, drills should include the following: checks and use of PPE, that is personal protective equipment, checks and use of communication equipment and procedure, checks and use of atmosphere measuring devices, checks and use of rescue equipment, instruction on first aid and resuscitation. The first thing, we have to start with making a risk assessment, then prepare the space, secure the space for entry, ensure persons undertaking the work are trained and have participated in appropriate drills, test the atmosphere of the space, complete a permit to work, and make a contingency plan in case things go wrong. A risk assessment has to be done by a competent officer since enclosed space entry is a potential life hazard. Making a risk assessment includes identifying hazards, deciding the control measures, and finding alternatives to mitigate the risks. Risk assessment should be made every time before making an entry. So first we have to identify the hazards in that particular enclosed space. When coming to the enclosed spaces, there are 4 main hazards: hazardous atmosphere, physical or configuration hazard, changing and hazardous condition, engulfment hazard. Go through all the 4 hazards. So after finding the hazards, you have to take proper measures to mitigate all the risks involved in making a enclosed space entry. According to SOLAS, the safe oxygen range in any working space should be between 19.5 to 23.5. So after preparing the space, next is the PTW, permit to work. So before entering, enclosed space entry permit has to be made. And it should include the location of the work, the nature and the limitations of the work, details of the working team and the tools to be used, potential hazards and the precautions which were taken, protective equipment to be used, time of issue and its validity, agreed communication methods and intervals, signature of the person on issuing the permit and on completion of the work, signature of the person who is supposed to enter, thus confirming he has been advised on the hazards and the precautions to be observed. The most important thing for a permit is it is valid only for a certain period of time. Normally it will be like 12 hours. The enclosed space entry permit has to be checked and permitted by the master of the ship. Everyone has a right to refuse to enter a space that is considered unsafe. No one should enter an enclosed space if there is any doubt that the correct entry procedure has been followed. No one should be allowed to enter an enclosed space if they are not physically fit or of suffering from any ailment or other issue that impairs their physical or mental ability. This means you can deny entering the enclosed space if you feel it is unsafe. The checks just before making an entry. Proper sign and men at work signboards should be provided at required places so that the person should not start any equipment, machinery or any other operation in the confined space, endangering the life of the people working inside the enclosed space. The duty officer has to be informed before entering the enclosed space. The checklist has to be signed by the person involved in the entry and also by the competent officer. The master, before signing the permit, has to make sure that all the points that are discussed in the checklist of the permit has been taken care of. And during the entry, the atmosphere should be tested frequently. Persons entering the enclosed spaces should be provided with calibrated and tested multi-gas detectors that monitors the levels of the oxygen, carbon monoxide and other gases as appropriate. Ventilation should be for the full duration. The person entering should wear a proper PPE. The standby person should be equipped with rescue equipment, including self contained breathing apparatus and a radio, and he should be in contact with the bridge or the engine control room or in port with someone who can help in case of emergency. Care should be taken to monitor and respond to the changing conditions during the work inside the enclosed spaces. In case if something happens to the person working inside the enclosed space, the standby person should not proceed to enter the space without the authorization of the master. He has to wait for the rescue team. The person who is entering to rescue should wear the proper breathing apparatus, that is self-contained breathing apparatus. Rescue procedures should be specific for each type of enclosed space. Drills on enclosed space entry must include rescue procedures. They should be practiced frequently enough to provide a level of proficiency that eliminates the life-threatening rescue attempts. IMO guidelines on portable atmosphere testing instruments. These instruments will not be used as a part of personal protective safety equipment but as a part of ship's equipment. They should be capable of measuring and displaying the concentrations of oxygen, flammable gases, carbon monoxide, and hydrogen sulfide. The instrument must be capable of remote sampling. Perform a self-test to check the instrument is fully operational. Show clearly which gas is being measured. Be readable in all lighting conditions. Alarm at an appropriate danger level as determined by the flag state. Operate in all temperatures expected. Be easily carried. Be protected from dust and water ingress. Have a minimum 10-hour battery life. Be intrinsically safe. Have an instruction manual including calibration instructions. The IMO says that personal gas meters are not appropriate for carrying out the atmosphere testing. The atmosphere of the space should be tested at different levels to obtain a representative sample of the atmosphere. Flexible hoses or fixed sampling lines are used in reaching remote areas within the enclosed spaces. Due consideration should be given to the duration of the sampling to ensure the full length of the sampling line has been flushed with the atmospheric gases of the spaces to be measured. I hope you liked it. இந்த வீடியோ உங்களுக்கு பிடிச்சிருந்ததுன்னா லைக் பண்ணுங்கள், ஷேர் பண்ணுங்கள். இந்த மாதிரி பல கடல் சார்ந்த கப்பல் சார்ந்த வீடியோக்களை தொடர்ந்து பார்க்க இந்த சேனலை சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணிவிடுங்க. கூடவே அப்படியே பெல் ஐக்கானும் கிளிக் பண்ணிவிடுங்க. தேங்க்யூ.